My name is Jason Thoyer. I'm the Cultural Resources Program Manager here at Joshua Tree National Park. Cornerstone's involvement in a project like this is really important for Joshua Tree National Park. We have hundreds of historic structures that we have to protect and preserve of all kinds of different materials. We have wooden structures, we have masonry structures, and we have adobe structures like Ryan Ranch. And it's impossible for the park to have all that expertise in-house to deal with managing all these different types of historic structures. So our partnerships with Cornerstones provides a really valuable opportunity for the park to be able to bring in subject matter experts who understand adobe preservation, adobe stabilization, and the care and maintenance of adobe structures, right, very specifically. And this partnership allows us to bring in those experts to partner with park staff and provide training to park staff and how to do this work, how to care for them. Also provide training and educational opportunities for the public to allow for volunteers to come in and also take part in hands-on preservation work, right, in maintaining, stabilizing, and preserving these really important and unique historic structures. We have a structure like Ryan Ranch where the nature of the work itself is cyclic and requires multiple years to complete that work, to do a preliminary test, to see how that test works, right, to assess the efficacy of our treatments, right, to apply a full treatment, and then to apply a retreatment. Right, having a partner like Cornerstones who has the ability to stretch a project out over the appropriate lifespan for that project, right, becomes an invaluable resource for the agency.
Hi, my name is Isaac Logston. I work with Cornerstone's Community Partnerships. We're here at Ryan Ranch at Joshua Tree National Park. Also on this project is Angela Francis, who's the lead plasterer. We began at this site by removing the failing lime plaster that's been here for about a decade. Big sections have been delaminating and falling off throughout the site. A lot of this is just sort of carefully removing the lime plaster that was put on as a sacrificial coat and general site cleanup. In addition to removing the sacrificial lime plaster, we're also trying to stabilize the edges of some of the original plasters. These were interior lime plasters that we suspect were done in the 1890s when the structure was built. In order to save these sections of interior plaster, we took away some of it until we could find stable edges, and then we stabilized them further using a natural hydraulic lime, or NHL 3.5. We brushed down the edges to clear it from debris and remixed the NHL with finely sifted sand. This stabilizes the edges, and it also creates a place for us to meet those interior sections with the earthen plaster that we're applying. A lot of this project is also just hauling materials to and from the site. So taking that failing lime plaster back down to the parking lot, which is a little over a quarter mile, and moving materials that we've been mixing up to the site. We did that by using a motorized wheelbarrow. The earthen plaster is just clay, sand, and straw and water. We were mixing down in the parking lot using a concrete mixer, and because it's pretty rich clay, we added the clay first and let it hydrate in the mixer, and then added the sand and straw. The clay came from near Lake Elsinore from a historic clay mine. We had to go further for the material because we couldn't mine in the park and there aren't very many natural sources of clay around Joshua Tree. Once we located the right materials, we made several test panels, some just on plywood and others on the structure itself, using different ratios of clay and sand. From these samples, we decided on a 2-to-5 mix. That's 2 clay to 5 sand. Mixing and finding the right ratios was an important training moment for the park staff. They were able to see how different mixes reacted, how clay-rich mixes cracked, and the sandier mixes didn't stick as well.
Hi, my name is Tia Abe. I live in Oakland, California, and I'm currently at Ryan Ranch in Joshua Tree, California. Today we were learning just about the general earthen plaster tools and how to get set up. Working in this particular climate, which is very dry and quite windy, to kind of how to take care of the site so we can be working efficiently and strategically and working together well. And then we get into the plastering part, which is always the best part. We learned how to hurl the clay, sand, and straw mix at the walls.
Once we had moved all of our materials up to the site, we were able to begin earthen plastering. We did this by wetting down the walls and hurling the material onto the wall. So this is done by throwing either with your hands or with tools. We also used our hands to push the materials into the wall and wooden floats to level out the different surfaces. After removing all of the lime plaster and thoroughly cleaning the walls, we started off with making minor adobe repairs. This was mostly so that the water sheds away from the wall rather than getting caught on ledges and further damaging the interior of the walls. During this first workshop, we worked closely with exhibit specialist Matt Sanford. He was able to learn how to mix, what to look for in the different ratios, and how to apply the earthen plaster to the walls. The earthen plaster that we put on is really a sacrificial coat, meaning that it's there to protect the adobes beneath it, and we're expecting it to erode over time. We're going to be returning to the park to help maintain the earthen plaster and taking care, especially to monitor the parapets or the tops of the walls, because those take the most damage from the rain and snow. The earthen plaster was chose for several reasons. One, it's easy for volunteers and untrained park staff to work with, but also in the future for graffiti remediation and patching, it's a lot easier than lime, which is alkaline and takes a little more skill. Over the next few years, Cornerstone is going to work with the park to monitor and assess the walls. This will be done by site visits every 3 months or after any large rains, and just doing simple site inspections. The plan is for Cornerstones to return annually or when needed to replaster the walls. And when we do that, we're hoping to engage more and more local volunteers and build the volunteers into the project so that they have an investment and there's some accountability to look after this structure. Cornerstones is also interested in setting up the park for when our agreement ends so that they have the training and the right tools and the right materials to continue this preservation effort even after our partnership.